Karen Laborde, the main purpose of this interview is to try to get more of an idea about what Green policies are and how the Green Party organises itself. You're perhaps less well known than some of the other parties taking part in this election. So although I'm sure you will want to criticise the other parties, it's mainly what you want to do that this is all about. Now, all the signs are that the Greens are going to do quite well. You've got more candidates than ever before. Therefore, you will get more votes than ever before. But how will you define success? Winning the popular vote compared with some of the other opposition parties, or getting more councillors than them?
Well, I'm going to start off by being really cheesy. We don't look at success as us winning. It's about the people of Cornwall winning, isn't it? And we see Green Party candidates who are mainly already hardworking parish and town councillors. If they get to become Cornwall councillors, then the people of Cornwall are winning. We are in an emergency and we need green voices in Cornwall Council. So we'd be happy getting 2 or 3, we'd be happy with 6, you know. We just want to start to influence policies in Cornwall Council. I'm
not going to disagree with you. It was quite cheesy, but would you really be happy with only a handful of councillors, fewer than 6?
Yeah, we're not in a. Of course, we would be happy with any amount of councillors to represent their local communities. We'd also be really, really happy because Greens have that different voice. They have a different perspective. They're more creative in their policies, and they can open conversations in County Hall. I think more than other parties who've become a bit staid over the years. So people are now looking to us to provide those policies. And even if we only have a handful in County Hall, we will really make a difference, because it's those conversations we will have, not necessarily in the chamber itself, but outside there in the corridors with our colleagues. We will make a difference, Graham.
Okay. For the sake of the argument, let's suppose that you get 3 councillors or more than 3, which is enough to form a Green group within County Hall. Will you then do what other political parties do and elect a group leader? And if so, what will be the process for electing a Green leader? We've never had one at Cornwall Council before.
That's a great thought, because the Green Party's never really comfortable. We tend to do it in pairs as well. So our current leadership is Sean Derry and Jonathan Bartley, and Cornwall Green Party, I currently share coordinator with Matt Valla. So we like to share it. We like to share the wealth. We like different voices. We don't like it just concentrated in one person. So it's interesting you ask that, because I don't think we have any official mechanisms for choosing a leader. And I think you're probably going to end up with a range of spokespeople. Let's see. We're not in that position yet, and I don't want to count my chickens, you know.
I'm going to explore this a bit more, because it does touch on some fundamental democratic principles, if you like.
Yes.
Common to all political parties. There are arguments within those over whether it is appropriate for councillors themselves to elect their own leader, or whether the wider party outside of County Hall should have a say in electing a leader. Or even a pair of leaders. If you're going to have a joint leadership, should that be determined by Green Party members outside of County Hall, or should the franchise be restricted only to councillors?
We're not going to get away with excluding our membership in anything. We are a democratic party from the bottom to the top, and our democracy starts at the bottom. You know that. And so we would never exclude our membership. In fact, our membership is so supportive of us that we are already at national level, but we will be in Cornwall as well, organising groups and teams behind each councillor to support them, to assist with briefings, advice. We have so many experts within the Green Party, from renewable energy right the way down to education, that why wouldn't we want to use our members to support our crew in County Hall? This is not just going to be one person or 3 people or 12 people at the best. You know, this is going to be the Green Party.
Yeah, but democracy can be very messy and cumbersome. And so while,
Yes.
I'm sure lots of people will listen to you saying, well, that's great. We do want as many voices as possible, determining who our joint speakers are going to be. But that is just so cumbersome and time consuming. You're going to be in permanent session having meetings.
No, no. You can do it quicker than that. We run everything democratically, and we run not necessarily through committees now, but through teams. So we have different teams working on different issues. So we are much more agile than we have ever been, and we trust teams to work. We trust what they deliver, and we respect their decision making. So it's not cumbersome. You can make very agile systems these days and be democratic. It's not all about leading from the front and leading from the top, it's
All right.
about people.
Okay. Now, you've got more candidates than ever before. In fact, you've got more candidates than the Liberal Democrats have, and you've got more candidates than the Labour Party have. There are some divisions, though, where there is no Green Party candidate. What is your advice to voters in those divisions? Should they vote for, I don't know, vote Labour, vote Lib Dem, vote Mebby and Kerno, or even not vote? What's your advice?
So you're saying they can vote for anybody as long as it's not a Conservative, is what you're saying to me. I'm not happy with that. I'm not comfortable with that. You must vote for who you feel is right for the job. And I'm not going to tell anybody how to vote. I don't think anybody has the right to do that. And I'm not going to steer people towards certain parties. Don't forget that the Green Party's been caught in many a messy alliance in the past. And this time we're just going to stand on our own 2 feet here. And I think we'll do well and better because of it. So I'm not going to steer. And who am I? The electorate aren't stupid. They will vote for who they want. And I think that's really, really important that they do that.
Okay, so you're saying that it is okay to vote Conservative?
If you want to vote Conservative, you should. And do you know what? There are some lovely Conservative candidates out there. And I met one the other day, and I'm not going to name names, but he was in XR with me. And we shared concerns about the environment, and we spoke over coffee in Costa, and he is standing as a Conservative candidate this time. And you know what? He is still a valuable councillor if he gets elected. It doesn't matter your party tag. It's about what you're going to do.
Okay. This leads very nicely to a question that I know a lot of voters will want your answer to. Are there any circumstances in which a Green group of councillors at Cornwall Council would support a Tory-led administration?
Wow. Even thinking of being in that position is quite daunting. I want to fudge this question and say, oh, I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. But actually, I think this is more a plea to the other parties, because actually it's all about supporting each other. As I keep saying, we are in a climate and ecological emergency here, and we have to act pretty quickly. And when we get into emergency situations, it's not just one party or another. It's we all have to work together. So during the war, it was the national government, and I think we could frame things along those lines. So including all colours in a cabinet post-election would not only be respectful to the electorate who all vote for different colours, but might help us move faster towards what we need to do for the climate and ecological emergency.
Okay, I mean, I hear absolutely what you say about some individual Conservatives, but a lot of your potential supporters, particularly those that you might be winning over from Labour or the Liberal Democrats or maybe in Kerno, will be concerned to hear that you're not ruling out the possibility of supporting a Conservative-led administration. They probably regard the Green Party as a party of the left, rather than play anywhere, and that they probably would want you to rule out supporting a Conservative-led council.
I would support, and this is personal, because I can't speak for all my members. It would have to be democratically decided. But we could support a Tory administration on the condition that the other parties were included. So it wouldn't just be the Greens supporting a Conservative cabinet, there would have to be representation there from the Labour Party, maybe in Kernow, and the Lib Dems. It's got to be that way. We can't. Party politics. They're not significant now. What's significant now is getting action on the climate and ecological emergencies. And I don't want to spend my life fighting party politics. Who's right? Who's wrong? Don't vote for them because you'll get a Conservative and all that. We really, really must now consider the actions that are needed for Cornwall to become net zero carbon. Because we said in, when was it, 2019, we're going to be carbon neutral by 2030. That means each year we've got to decrease emissions by 13%. Nothing on that scale has been achieved in 2 years. So we need to start moving, and that's why the Greens are fielding such a strong team. This is why Greens are there and why we're garnering so much support.
Okay, right. You've just said that you might support a Conservative-led administration provided it included representatives of the other parties.
Yes.
Is that not handing a veto to those other parties? You say, well, okay, well, we'll support the Tories as long as you include Labour and the Liberal Democrats and maybe in Kernow, or independents. If any of those then say, well, we're not joining because we fundamentally disagree with a Conservative-led administration, are you giving them a veto, or would you go ahead and do it anyway?
No, I wouldn't go ahead and do it anyway. I mean, but it's not down to me. That's my personal opinion. I wouldn't. No, I would like to see not a rainbow, as you call it, a rainbow coalition or a rainbow. It's either going to be a rainbow coalition or a rainbow opposition, isn't it? That's what we're going to end up with. And what would be nice, though, would be inclusion in the cabinet of members from other parties so that their voters can be actually represented. The cabinet system is really a stale system. It doesn't include and it doesn't represent people, and I feel it's I know it's been imposed upon us, but I think it could be changed.
You touched on the cabinet system there. Is that one of your red lines, the governance of the council? Would you be pushing for abolition of the cabinet system and a return to the old style of committees that scrutinise everything and vote on everything in proportion to the political proportionality of the council?
Yes, I would. The committee system, I think, worked better. The councillors felt they were actually doing something. They felt involved in committees, and they were very busy people. Nowadays, they feel excluded from the process. The cabinet, the power is concentrated to a few people, and consequently gives the executive officers quite a good deal of control over those few members of the cabinet. So whereas councillors feel excluded, I think people also feel excluded. And from my personal opinion, I feel the cabinet system has moved local government away from the people. And you can feel that on the doorstep. There is that sense of, what does it matter? It doesn't matter who I vote for, we get the same old thing, because their councillor isn't actually involved in anything. So what we have today, we have loads of councillors running around being community spirited and community minded and doing all this wonderful community work and not making decisions. We elect councillors to make decisions for us, and that's not happening. And I would like to see a change in the cabinet system for that very reason.
I'd like now to explore some specific policy detail from the Green Party. Let's suppose that you're in a position of huge influence at County Hall afterwards. Council tax has just gone up by 4.9%. Was that too much or not enough? What level of council tax would the Green Party set for Cornwall?
Do you know what? I've looked at the council budget. I've been a business person all my life, and I know the front and back of a balance sheet and a trial balance and all the rest. And I look at the council budget and it just blows my mind. I mean, it's an enormous amount of work and paper to read through for a lay councillor. It's dreadful. But the only thing I could say is I can't make comment on the level of money, but I could say the priorities are wrong in the budget, and that's where we could make a difference. You've got to look at capital projects, etc. you know, that's where we would change things.
This is all about how are you going to raise and spend 1.3 billion pounds. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
Do you really not have any idea about whether a 4.9% increase is too much or too little? I mean, or is it dead right? I mean, it can only be one of those three things, can't it? It's either too much, too little, or dead right.
Well, it depends what you're spending it on. I mean, when you think this council's already carrying £1 billion worth of debt, paying £23 million in interest every year to service this debt, and then is continuing to borrow more money to set up, you know, like Treveth Holdings and all the other stuff they're doing. I mean, this is big money. This is big business. And I'm not quite sure that's what a council is supposed to be. It's supposed to be delivering services. So yes, I would question the level of investment and risk that the council is taking with our money. And that is what a greater proportion of the budget is. So if we're talking about those sort of policies, making it 4.9% increase, yes, we could reduce that if we looked and focused on services. We could probably reduce that and change the priority. But until you're in there and in those meetings, because you well know this, that when you go to a meeting and the council papers come forward for some scheme or project, all those financial figures are redacted and you can never get to see them. So it's really important that that, you know, you're in there to make sure decisions are made correctly, because you'll have the actual information in front of you.
Okay, so I mean, on the question of council tax, you're a don't know at the moment, but you presumably got a mechanism or a plan for finding out.
Yes.
One of your specific promises in your manifesto is to introduce a tourism tax. And so I'm assuming that this is something that you've given some thought to.
Yes.
And have some ideas about. What level would you set for a tourism tax in Cornwall?
Well, if you travel overseas, it's usually anywhere between €4 and €8 a night if you're over in Switzerland, or if you go to Canada, it's about $8 a night in the national parks in Canada. So we think £2 a night per person for the average stay of just short of a week is an acceptable price to pay. And from that, we calculate we'd raise about 70 million. And it's not overly burdensome, but tourism is overly burdensome on Cornwall Council.
That's really interesting. Okay, so I mean, that's a specific figure, £2 per person per night, raise 70 million. What would you spend the 70 million on?
Well, this is where also you can be creative. I mean, it's not just about taking the money off the tourists, it's about also giving them for value for money. So if you take schemes like they have in Switzerland, you pay €4 a night, and then you get a little yellow card. And that yellow card allows you free bus transport and free use of the local sports facilities. Because what the tourist tax is sponsoring is public transport and sport facilities, which then the local people can enjoy too. So it's about being creative with the tourist tax. And actually, we've wanted a tourist tax for a while, and we've kind of not seen it as a lead policy. But so many people have contacted us about this tourist tax, and we now have tourism leaders contacting us to have discussions because they too are really interested in the tourist tax. It's not this what we thought might be a wedge issue. You'd get all the tourists, like the bed and breakfast people and the business people saying, no, we don't want this. They're actually thinking maybe this could be a good thing. So we've surprised ourselves at how attractive our policies are.
If you were to win overall control of Cornwall Council, right? So we let our imagination. Let our imagination.
Laughing at that, you never know what may happen.
Okay, I'll try to keep a straight face, but let us suppose that we've got the G7 summit coming up in Cornwall. Yes. Does the Green Party support the idea of Cornwall hosting the G7 summit, or do you think it's a dangerous waste of money?
I think on several levels. If you're talking about carbon emissions and all that travel and all the money that's already been invested in an airport to get people over here, no, we don't support that. We think it could be done online. They don't need to network face to face. We're not today. I think they could manage it. I don't think historically G7s have brought revenue to the areas in which they've been held. In fact, areas have held debt afterwards because of the services they've had to provide for such an onerous conference. However, if the G7 does take place, I think they should be welcomed. Since Biden has been elected in the US, there has been an absolute sea change in government response to the climate emergency, with even our own government coming out this week saying we're going to reduce by 75% by 2035. And there seems to have they've got themselves in this, like, I'm going to do better than you competition, and their targets are dropping rapidly, which is exciting. So that we should welcome and support if they do come here, because it's good news.
I'd like to pursue this climate question because there is a lot that a large local authority like Cornwall could do. Cornwall Council currently has a very ambitious road building programme, Chiverton, the St Austell Link Road, Camelford Bypass and so on. Would the Green Party, if you're in a position to do so, would you put a halt to that road building programme?
Yes. It's just quite simple. Road building never solves any issues. Road building increases the amount of traffic, increases emissions, it damages wildlife, green spaces. It never does what it's intended to do. It just moves the queue further on. And I'm quite saddened actually by the persistence that we're going to build on all this road building, which when you announce you're going to reduce emissions by 75% by 2035, and currently you're investing well in excess of what, 80-90 million on roads in Cornwall, you're not walking the walk. And I think that road building distracts. People think, oh yes, because we've always needed roads in Cornwall. Oh, we'll dual the A30 because that's how people get down here. But it's distracting us from the issue that's really important here, that we need to respect nature and we need to work on the climate emergency.
Okay, I mean that's interesting and a bold statement to make. It's not in your manifesto though that you're going to halt the road building programme in Cornwall.
And we did come out quite publicly. We issued a press release on the A30 dualling, which is not a dualling, it's a new road, the expressway. We have come out against that because it's quite apparent that there is a local protest group against it, so we've supported them. And we can't see the purpose of it, because all you're doing is shifting the queue from Chiverton Cross down to Hale. It just doesn't make any logical sense. And yet the damage that is being done to that piece of land between Carlin Cross and Chivy is quite disturbing.
Oh, it'd be fascinating to see what does happen, because a lot of the money's already been committed in some respects, certainly for Chiverton. Anyway, let's return now to my very first question. You've been very generous with your time. I'd like to pin you down to a specific number, if I can. How many Green councillors do you think there are going to be by Friday afternoon after the votes are counted?
I don't know. This is a completely unknown for us. We've never.
I've had a look at it, and I think that you could get 12. Would that be good, or would that be disappointing?
No, that would be amazing. I think conservatively, I think we're going to get 3 or 4, because we're fighting in specific areas across the county, because of course our membership is split across the whole county, and we want them to support individuals in those areas. So yes, 3 or 4 would be great. And it's the start. Don't forget, this is only the beginning. This will get better as we go forward.
Karen, thank you very much. As I say, you've been very generous with your time. I'll let you get back to knocking on doors and distributing leaflets.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.